Okie dokie. We've been joined by Tom. Okay, from the board, welcome to the April board meeting. Present, we have Martin Knobloch, we have Avi Dublin, Bill Corrie, Glenn Tenkate, Grant Ongers, Jubin Jabari, and from staff, we have myself, Harold, Kelly, Tom Pipus is representing us from virtual. We also have Dawn, Lisa, and the gentleman, Mark Hoops. Mark, can you just introduce yourself real quick?
He already did, Andrew. He's a member who's just curious to see what's going on and to see how the board operates.
Awesome, no worries, cool. So our first piece of business is to go through and approve the minutes. So let me just share my desktop and get all of this junk out of the road. Please just.
Couldn't Grant chair the meeting when Adama is not present?
Yeah, as soon as Grant's off his call, if he's off his call, let me know and I'll pass the.
He's here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Hang on, let me. So, is that helpful?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just get the minutes approved, and Grant, if you want to run the vote, that'll be fine. I'll hand it over.
Sure. Thank you, Andrew. So the first item of business is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. I will run through the list as I see them here. Jubin?
Do you need a second? Yes.
So
No,
who's
we don't.
seconding?
I can second it.
Okay.
Okay, and then for the approval, Jubin?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Avi?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Who have I missed?
Bill?
Bill?
Yes.
And then myself is also a yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we don't have much business today. I think we'll just run through the reports, and the only piece of business is confusing. I think Fiona has actually said yes to this gentleman, and I think from the policy, the committee's policy, she has the power to do so, but it might be worthwhile for us to discuss the clarification around this, because Fiona said that the board had voted, but I don't have a record of that. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Shall we do the officer reports?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm going to grab the screen. Okay, don't need that anymore. We need this one. Okay, can everyone see the screen? Should be a presentation.
Yep.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so from initiatives and operations, we have met to discuss the bylaws being replaced. We have set up a subcommittee, and Avi has expressed interest. So Jubin and I believe Grant, are you okay if Avi joins this subcommittee?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Great.
Yeah, we're not okay for him not to join.
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
For those of you who didn't watch the previous call, there was a whole not conversation where we were nodding statements. It's a joke. Sorry for the bad joke.
Okay. The association management system is progressing. Dawn and I looked at a preliminary front page. He's going to come back to us with slides, sub-pages soon. Our activities between now and when that's actually implemented is to coalesce and come up with a better site structure that is that spreads out the material a little bit better. I do I've just submitted Vandana. Vandana has joined the meeting. Vandana, you've missed the approval of the minutes, but there isn't much in the way of an agenda today. The AMS is progressing. We are likely to have the final design in 60 to 90 days. Once we've actually got the final design draft, we have one more bite at the cherry, if you like, to tidy up things. What we do need to do now is actually start to work out how do we actually get all of the content in. We've paid for the API, so we can probably automate a lot of it, but we are still waiting to hear from our contractor as to what he will do versus what we need to do. One of the last steps is adding all the members, and from there, hopefully we've got the decision on leaders as members, and also the bylaws finalized. We are working on a fundraising program. I am determined for us to actually have everything sorted out so that we have everything that a grant program absolutely needs. We've got a few problems where people are giving us, or trying to give us money, but on their paperwork. And that actually is difficult for us. And so we just need to sort out this entire fundraising and grants process. So we're going to be trying to sort out the actual, yes, Martin.
I think the problem was the grants, but for the fundraising or for sponsorship, we didn't have a problem, right? Because I have been contacted with people, members that said they have actually sponsors for the project, and it's also a problem.
Yeah, so what we need to do is actually work out the process, because at the moment we don't have general agreement from most projects that they can be sponsored. We do need to work out a process. And part of that is also that we need to make it easier than just doing simple donates. We want to get substantial sums of money, and we want to maybe, like, one of the reasons why we're doing this is the May meeting in DC. The federal government has, of the US federal government, I should say, has over $100 million in grants. We were made aware through the cyber security nonprofits that there is a gentleman who founded Craigslist he's actually funding up to $50 million a year for people in the AppSec community and InfoSec more generally. So what we need to do is start getting these grants, and we need to have work packages. So part of this is to reach out to the project leaders. Part of it is actually process, making sure the processes are good. Part of it is transparency, to make sure that grants are actually fully represented to the board. But also, once it's actually in place, I'll be looking for the board to reach out to their contacts and assist with fundraising. This is something we've never really done in the past, and it is a bit of a change, but we can't just keep on having projects being funded by other sources of income. I'm really determined to make sure that projects and everything, every single thing that we do has its own source of income and can sustain itself and grow. We also, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think again, there are two things. So one is the grants application, because it's a different process.
Yes.
And there is also we have sponsorship, and we have sponsorship as long as we exist. So that should be not a broken process. And we had a problem with earmark money if it was a low budget, but I have been contacted by projects that have actually a sustainable amount of money, and it doesn't need to be earmarked. But then also that part of getting sponsorship or donations, that should not be, it's not broken, right? It's a process we already have in place, and it should work.
Yeah.
So I wonder why there's sometimes a hiccup for that.
Because we have no defined processes. And that's part of our problem, is that we don't, because it's always ad hoc, every single one of them is done differently. We need to get to a place where we can both sustain our operations through fundraising, but also do project-specific grants, such as we've been doing with the CRS project. I want to get to a position where it is possible for a well-motivated project leader or project team to actually work as contractors on their projects full-time. We can't do that today. We've never been able to do it. I'd want to basically get to a position where we have a well-defined, transparent and open process. This is how you actually raise money to work on your project. And this is how you can actually go get grants.
Would it be something that we either have the project committee look into or ask our members what they need, those projects who actually get funds? Because the OWASP show has get funding sponsorship forever. We have the OWASP SKF, and definitely the Mod security rules also have a sponsor who wants to give a serious amount of money. So we had this in the past already. So I wonder why sponsorship, we're talking not about grants and fundraising, sponsorship that's already in place, right? It seems now to be broken when it had been working before.
It's not a problem. It's just that every single one of these takes a different form. And the problem we've got with that, for example, with the CRS project, is the donor wants to give the money under their contract, not ours. And it just takes a long time. And at the moment, I'm negotiating with another large organization to fund some work, which Arvi's going to be familiar with.
Sorry, you say contract again. So sponsorship, there's no contract involved in sponsorship, right? It's just donation of money, and many times.
That's not
but those should work.
Yeah,
okay.
It's not the way that it's working at the moment. And that's what I'm trying to say is until we get some defined processes in place with adequate transparency, it's actually going to be difficult. I'm currently reviewing the changes from the organization's lawyers. I'm reluctant to name the organization until we've signed the contract. It is only for $10,000, but fundamentally, it is on their paper. And quite frankly, we need to be able to say, no, if you're going to sponsor us, you're supporting us through this mechanism, or you're providing a grant through our grants or awards policy. At the moment, it's so ad hoc. Every single thing takes so long. I think Arvi's pretty familiar with how long it's been taking us to get the this one off the ground. We've known about it since February. And it's not because we're delaying things. It's literally our processes are just not strong. And they've never been strong in this area. So we are working on it. It's a really, to my mind, this is one of the highest priorities for the organization, because it's a serious source of income that we're ignoring, and it's got a lot of friction. And I think this is one of the areas we can improve.
Yeah, I think Vadana has the hand up. I just want to say, as projects are involved with this, we should also contact projects who actually have this problem or want to have it solved. Involve our members' projects to do that. It does not always have to be you alone do it. So please reach out to the community. Vandana?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that we'll be doing, is going through the projects committee, because we do need to not only communicate with the projects and more generally, but we also need the projects committee to be on the lookout for these sorts of grants to support and sustain the projects themselves. There's a number of issues with branding and trademarks. So sorry, Vandana, please go ahead. Sorry, I'm going to put the, yep, go for it.
No, right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a question around the same lines. Now, how are we making sure that it becomes neutral, wherein nobody is influencing it? Right now, we have projects, the things are going on, but still the project leaders come back and they want visibility. Now, when we talk about grants, how are we going to make sure that the projects get the right grant? There are many projects that are coming up. So how are we going to support them? Are we going to allocate some budget for every project, or one project will get higher budget? And when we talk about grants, there's another point to it that, let's say, OWASP Top 10 is a very famous project. ASVS is a very famous project. Dependencies check is now becoming very famous. Cyclone DX is becoming famous. Now, all of these projects, they are known to organizations. Organizations are using it. So getting the grant for the projects is easy for them. But how about the lower visibility projects? What can we do? And when we talk about all of these things, how are we trying to concentrate on them?
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set up the process so that the board can actually allocate grants to specific purposes, such as diversity or scholarships, or indeed lower visibility projects. Like, say, for example, if we've got an incubator or a lab project that needs to go to the next level, but we think it's very important to the future of AppSec, we can actually, as a board, if we get enough grants in from a sustaining point of view, like if we do a fundraiser for diversity and we say we want to raise $25,000 for diversity purposes or outreach purposes or project purposes, we can go and do those, and then the board can allocate the funds as they see fit. We don't actually have that sort of thing at the moment. The closest we have is actually the expenses bucket, and the board makes an allowance for that every year. Projects and chapters and committees are free to use that for whatever purpose, but fundamentally we need to be able to direct funds to those sort of strategic projects. At the moment, we don't have the fundraising. Projects is more or less a negative 300,000 to negative 400,000 drain on our finances every year. We need to turn this around. We need to be able to get projects to be self-funded as a whole, but also to advance our mission, we need to raise more money than that so that we can actually move the needle.
I have a consecutive question on it, Andrew. Do you think that we should create an agenda or some slide deck for the organizations? And we should tell about our projects. We should do some kind of a roadshow. I remember we used to do Project Summit. So probably we can do some roadshow where we can actually educate people about the projects that we have. Even though right now I am doing Spotlight series, we have Project Summit, but there is much more which is needed. Then only we can go ahead and ask for grant. Till the time they don't see the value, they would never be able to go ahead with that. Even at our conference, we can have booth for all the projects that we have, like a separate section, just a recorded video of those projects, and people can go and check it out. Probably that might also help somewhere. If we can have something of that sort, or we can ask project leaders to just create a small deck or a small video of other projects where people get to know about them, so that the background work is done, but then we can talk to the people who are going to support us or sponsor us. So it will be a win-win situation for them because they want to see the value in the project and we want to get the grant.
There is actually about 8 or 9 things that we need to produce as a foundation to apply for almost any grant, particularly those from the government. We need to put those together, but as you say, one of the key things is work packages. We need to be able to say to projects, if you want to get funded, we need to have these things, and exactly what you've just talked about is what's necessary there. We can't really produce that on behalf of the projects. We need them to actually assist.
That's correct. That's correct.
Very good. I will keep that in mind. I think our floor plan for San Francisco is more or less fully accounted for, so I'm not sure if we can do a booth, but we will, depending on sponsor take up of our tables. I'm pretty sure Kelly's got a full deck, but we don't know. I mean, I don't know at this point. We will try to squeeze one of those in, or we'll try to do a project showcase type of track in the future. But at this very moment, I think our floor plan is sorted. Is that the case, Kelly or Lauren?
The exhibitor floor plan is laid out, yes, for exhibitors. We can review the rooms that are available. Maybe we could look at some, holding it in a separate room for just projects. But I would have to pull up the San Francisco floor plans and look at what rooms were allocated for what and see if we could fit that in. But yeah, that's something we can definitely look at. Yeah, and certainly for future planning, we can certainly look into it for future planning. Dublin is going to be a much smaller event than we originally planned for various reasons. We may not have the floor plan for that either. We might need to think about that as being part of the tracks. Bandana.
Yeah, I actually, just the last point on it, you just reminded me of something wherein if we talk about San Francisco one, if we have a floor plan, we don't need to have like multiple tables. We can have one table where people click on it and somebody can explain about them or just show them the video. Just one person taking the leadership of that thing and then showcasing the project that people ask for. So we can have a list of projects and then just somebody talk about, okay, I want to know about this, and then the video is played, so that we don't need to have multiple people, but still they get to know about it. Yeah, just my thoughts on it.
Could we even tag that onto the registration desk, or next to that, or something like that, or would that just be too crowded and get in the way?
That's something, yeah, we could look at where we could fit it in. I know Dublin right now, what we have is agreed to and signed on with, there's not any extra room. But it doesn't mean that we can't add an extra room, but then of course we incur that extra cost.
It doesn't mean that future events can't have this planned in, Vandana. It might not just happen the way that you intend this next couple, but we've inherited various previous contracts, and when we do the 2023 North America one, we will certainly look into making sure that there's adequate room. Okay, the trademark and branding guidelines need to be sorted, but because it's essentially a policy and until we've got the bylaws sorted, I'm going to, as part of the subcommittee, reach out to the lawyers and find out if the board still has the power under the 2004 bylaws to amend policy. If that's going to be okay, we will be able to continue to work on policy. However, it is unclear at this point whether the board actually holds that power. It didn't mention policies specifically in the 2004 bylaws. It just says that they can manage the day-to-day things. And I don't know if the law assumes that includes setting policy. I would hope so. So first things first, as part of the subcommittee, we need to find out whether or not you still have the power to amend policy. Otherwise, we really do need to move on the bylaws as quickly as we possibly can. So with that, I'm going to pass on to Tom. Oh, actually, just really quick, operations. We are doing various things. We'll have a table at Black Hat. There's a fair number of co-marketing agreements. We get many every week. Yeah, so essentially what we do need to do is sort out Ricardo Griffiths' appointment. It's one of the only items on the business today. So Tom. Let me just make sure Tom has the ability to present.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. I'm going to go through the finances quickly because we're in good shape. Not an awful lot's changed from February to March, and we're within budget. And Andrew was able to share the narrative and actually the financial package. So. With that, a couple things I'm going to highlight. Can you all see my screen? Excellent. So we continue to be way ahead of this time last year for cash collections. AR is up, but it's not up due to old items. It's up due to current billings, which is showing that we still have a lot, we have a lot of interest in the programs that we're running. The prepaids are up a little bit. We're prepaying for certain things that are happening at this point. Our accounts payable is fairly flat. The deferreds are up specifically because of deferred corporate membership. And I will say it this way, that we have about 187,000 left in the budget, April through December, to recognize, but we have 300,000 here that's been deferred. So we should more than hit our number for the end of the year, which is a good thing. With that, we're showing a $50,000 loss, but that is under what we budgeted for the year when we broke it out. Our budgeted loss through the first quarter was 137. So we're actually $87,000 better in net income than we budgeted. So think of that as a cushion for the rest of the year, that we're doing better through the first quarter. With that, I will take any questions on the P&L. Bobby.
Yeah, why are we budgeting this quarter to be a loss?
That's a very good question. The reason is we didn't have much for in the way of events in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to do. So what the board looks at, here's the budget on an annual basis. This is what you all approved, which shows basically a break even for the year. But then in order for me to be able to give you guys something to compare to on a monthly and quarterly basis, I have to match that against something. So I break the budget out for the year, month by month, and it has to do with activity level. So, you'll see in certain months, we have, like in June, we're showing a big profit. The last part of the year with our, San Francisco is showing a profit. The rest of it is, we have more expenses than we have revenue at that point. But as you'll see, the month by month breakout ties exactly to what the annual is. But that's a very good question.
So Avi, just
Thank you.
for history purposes, OWASP has always had a very quiet first quarter, and we have big bills to pay for hotels and catering. So if you go back through every single budget plus our actual financials from previous board reports going back to at least 2012, the first quarter is always a loss. Our run rate is about 122,000 a month. And if we don't get $122,000 in that month, we end up losing money. But as Tom was saying, we are actually quite ahead of budget, which is fantastic. One of my biggest problems is just simply finding things to spend money on just in case the IRS comes calling. So we are approving a few things that we wouldn't probably approve, just simply so that we do have some money set aside for mission.
I have a
Right,
few
and
ideas if you want to spend money on stuff.
There you go. Well, the one thing that used to help mitigate the first quarter was when we used to do AppSec Cali and be able to recognize that in January, and then February and March would be a theoretical loss because there wasn't much going on, and the quarter would be, a little bit of a loss. But as you can see, we were $25,000 under in expenses, but only $16,000 under in revenue. And the membership continues to drive our betterment in revenue. And then I always keep an eye on this. So we're about $40,000 year to date under in expenses.
Yeah.
So
this is one of the things of the, when I came in, one of the things that I wanted to do was make sure that events weren't funding everything. That's actually a problem. Sorry, go ahead, Vandana.
Sorry, I wanted to ask something around the same financials. Actually, I couldn't find AppSec Asia Pacific in that. So did we budget it? How are we planning to budget it? Or did I miss to see that?
It is in here. If you look at the annual, Asia Pacific is right here. We budgeted 25,000 in registration, about 200,000 in sponsorships. So that's in the annual.
That's in the annual. Okay. All right.
Yep. It got spread out. I off the top of my head don't remember what month we put it in here, although I can probably figure it out by looking at.
It's to be held in late August and early September. So I would imagine.
Yeah, it's right here. It's right here. So September.
Yeah.
So it's you can see it here in the monthly budget as well. Vandana.
Right, got it.
Okay.
I couldn't find it, so I asked the question.
That's okay. No. I'd rather have you ask than go looking, wasting time looking for it. So with that, does anybody have any questions remaining? Although Jubin, it sounds like you have a question.
I was reading the summary, and I see that we were under budget in several areas.
Yeah.
Like the GA combined budget, we were 52,000 under, and outreach we were over by a bit. But it looks like we were under budget in some areas. Is that accounted for in this spreadsheet that you're showing with the legal fees that is coming up, the unexpected legal fees that we're going to have, or is the legal fees not yet accounted for here?
So that's a great question. So this is all actuals. This isn't anything that's forecasted. So where I said that we're $87,000 better than we budgeted through the first quarter, Some of that will get eaten up by the legal fees. Andrew, you and I can connect, and I can try and extract, put this into, take the budget, take the actuals for the first quarter, and then add in where you think the legal fees are going to go, and work on a forecast going forward. So that hopefully would answer your questions you've been seeing, what's still under, what's not. I also have some reclasses to make. Some of the outreach here,
Yeah.
I think the reason we're over is because
Yeah.
meetup got booked here, and it should be here.
Mhm.
So, in total, between the two, we're still $21,000 under budget between
Sure.
chapters and outreach.
I think like at a macro view, I understand this. What I don't know is how in the red we'll be in Q1, potentially Q2, depending on how these legal fees go. So if Andrew, you can help me understand that a little bit better, or if Tom, we can chart that out.
So
I think we can. Like I said, I can put together a forecast looking at what we budgeted for April, May, and June, right? And then increase the legal fees based on what Andrew estimates them to be,
Mhm.
and leave the revenue flat to budget, and that will give you a better sense, and then match it against the surplus that we have here
That'd be
versus
perfect.
budget. Would that help you, be a little more comfortable?
Yeah, and
Okay.
and not to be alarmist, it's not that I'm
No,
uncomfortable.
no.
I want to know what the delta is going to be so we can prepare for the end of year.
So one of the things that I've done in the past, Jibin, is I've deferred unnecessary legal advice for a follow-on year. We might have found out more about our bylaws issue if I hadn't have done that, but then we would have had very large bills in a year we could ill afford them. What I can do is, as the subcommittee meets, we need to come up with a plan that basically we can then define a statement of work with the lawyers and get an estimate. I think at the moment we don't know what it's going to cost us.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll coordinate with Avi and Grant and yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then when you guys have the numbers, let me know, and I'll start working on a forecast spreadsheet, and I can drop them in when you guys are ready.
Yep.
The last thing I wanted to point out is, I always put in a month of operational reserve. So, while our cash went down about $9,500 month to month, we're still showing just pure operating, exclusive of events, 10.3 months of reserve. Again, the nonprofit industry average is 6. If we add in all of the event expenses, but didn't take in a penny for the events, we'd still have 7 months of reserve. So we all know we're gonna take in revenue from the events that are coming up. So my point to all of this is we are much better than the nonprofit industry average of 6 months, and have been for a while, and continue to be through these challenging pandemic times. That, fingers crossed, we're coming out the other end. Avi?
When you talk about the nonprofit average, is that anything specifically in the high-tech nonprofit versus, there's a lot of non-financially stable industries with nonprofits?
So that's a great question. So we use the ASAE, which is the nonprofit for nonprofits that oversees, the aspects, but that's all associations. So it's not just you all. So I'll say it this way. So I'm still a member, but I used to be the VP of Finance for Apache. Okay, they had 24 months of reserve, and my counsel to them always was, this is great, but if that keeps going up, your sponsors at some point are going to sit there and say, why do we keep giving you sponsorship money if it's just sitting here? What OWASP is doing is, you're better than the average, but you're not, for lack of a better word, just sitting on top of funds. You're doing things like updating the AMS and working on different relationships with different groups, and your events are starting to come alive again. And, but I do have some clients that, have 3 or 4 months of reserve, which is not exactly a place you want to be. But I haven't really seen anything that differentiates between tech consortia and, and associations. And OWASP is a little different, but you're like Apache in that you're a C3. So you're not an association, but you have membership, and that gives you a little bit more flexibility because you can go for grants. Certain things you do as a foundation are tax deductible to donors that aren't if you are a true C6 association. So does that help, Avi?
Yeah, that's excellent. Thanks. I still feel like the industry average is probably not the number that we should be aiming for because, like you said, we're different, more comparable to Apache. But it feels like it's around the right number that we that we have.
So so again, another good question. You're right. I use that as the floor. You don't want to go below it, but you don't want to be 2, 3, 4 times higher than that and not doing anything. So to your point, any of my groups that have 8 months to a year, I think are in a good place, because if the last 2 years haven't taught us anything, you don't want to be so close that okay, now we have to go. I mean, we've been lucky, in getting that PPP loan, right? That we didn't have to pay back for $113,000. So to your point, yeah, if all of a sudden we grew to like 17 months, 18 months, 20 months, my counsel to you would be, well, we need to start doing something. If all of a sudden we start the pure operating, drops to 6 or 7, I would be like, okay, we need to look at either what's costing us or start working on our revenue streams.
Yeah. So
that sounds perfect. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about back in the good old days before COVID was using an investment ladder to actually provide sustaining like annual income from interest. So we aren't in that position right now, but if we do end up with a lot of spare cash and not much to spend it on, I would encourage us to think about our programs. We're actually reforming our internal costs at the moment. We've reduced them by quite considerably compared to 2020 and 2019. However, that should be redirected into funds. My goal is for OWASP to have less than 20% overhead and the rest of it to direct it into programs and sustenance. And to do that, we need to have as many income sources as possible. And if we have a large cash balance and we don't need it for operational reserves, we should be doing some sort of investment for the bad days. Okay. Righty-o. With that is the end of the reports. And Dana, you're the chair. Grant was hosting, being the chair. Would you like to take the next item of business? It's the only item we've got. I don't see any committees here. So yeah, sorry, Martin, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just wondering, the end of the reports, I thought we would have more details on events, I was going, other stuff that we said in the past.
I see. Yes, I do have slides. They're in their slides materials. Let me just go through them really quickly. Okay, so I'm working on, as part of the fundraising stuff, I'm working on updating our GuideStar profile. This is an audit year. We can't get audited any quicker than we're already doing. Unfortunately, GuideStar actually likes to see audits every other year. So once this year is done and we've got our audit, which is the external audit, what we will need to do is have a discussion as a board to decide whether or not we go down to 2 years so that we keep up a GuideStar Gold or Platinum level. We may struggle. Oh, Harvey?
Can you explain why we want gold or platinum for GuideStar? Like, what does it matter?
It does. So if we're going down the pathway of asking people for donations or being in Amazon Smile or any of the other automated systems such as YouTube, we need to maintain at least gold. We will try our very best to get it up to gold based around the fact that, we're extremely candid and open with all of our finances and all the other things. But because our last audit was in 2019, we don't currently meet the guidelines for gold. We will continue to try. I will work with them just simply to say that our current frequency is 3 years, and that's all we're required to do legally. However, again, this year is an audit year. Next year we will have the audit report, and therefore we will be back into the good books with GuideStar. Anyway, I'm just saying, we need this for fundraising, essentially. That's what it gets down to. We will struggle to get donations from automated systems without it. Tom.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of my clients have set it up because it's a little more cost effective to do an audit every 3 years. You could, and I don't know if GuideStar would allow this, Andrew, because I've never gone down this road, but you could do a financial review with an external CPA firm, which cuts the cost in half if they would accept that in your off years.
I will touch base with them as soon as I've, the profile updating is very, very self-service. This is obviously a custom request. I'm going to ask them whether or not the our last year's statement, like the one from our accountants, would be sufficient, but it may not be.
Right, and a compilation, some auditors call it a compilation, some auditors call it a review. Again, is a, they're reviewing the financials, which they don't necessarily do when they're putting the 990 together, the tax return.
Yeah.
If GuideStar would allow that, again, those are at least half of what a full audit would cost you. So I'm not suggesting you change your bylaws, but as an operational issue, the board could vote to just do a review if you want, if it makes sense to get to the gold standard for GuideStar if they allow it.
Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't change from 3 years to 2 years unless we're earning significant income from donations from these platforms. It seems like a lot of extra cost and work, and it sort of has to pay for itself.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okie dokie. We've been through the financials. There are financials here to provide it in a more graphical form than the narrative. If you want to review that, you may. The slides are there for you to actually look at. That gives you an idea of our accounts receivable versus current assets. And as you can see, there's a proportion of our overall assets. It's fine. As Tom said, operating reserves going down slightly every month, but that's okay. Members, we're up to 5,850, which is fantastic. It is certainly one of the best numbers we've had in a while. Growth is tapering off. We may struggle to get the 7,000 members that we're looking for this year, but we will get well into the 6,000s, I believe, if we continue to promote our membership offers, and also to make sure that we do a sufficient marketing. No, we've only, Kelly, how many corporate members do we have?
I believe as of today, we have 65.
Yeah, and that's roughly the number that we've had for many years. What we probably do need to do is think about ways that I've asked Kelly to have a look at the corporate membership packages and review benefits to encourage more people to become gold or platinum. Martin?
So if the corporate membership, I think there was something that becomes corporate sponsorship rather than membership. There was something that changed. So do we still use the term corporate membership, or will it be corporate sponsors?
We will need to sort this out in the next bylaws. At the moment, they're a member.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we can't just take away members' rights without getting the bylaws replaced, and we can't do that right now. Okie dokie. Let's keep them going. New chapters, we're getting a lot of new chapters in student chapters, in particular in India. It seems to be going around quite a lot. Vandana, I do need to reach out to you. I'll talk to you more on our tomorrow call. We need to get a better understanding of how IITs work, because if we've got all these people who are forming student chapters and they can't be compliant with our policy, we may need to just think very carefully about how we actually set up chapters and maybe have a different sign-up form for them, so that they understand that they need to operate in our way, not just the IIT's way. we've got a ton of new projects. Sorry, we've got 4 new projects.
Sure, Andrew.
No problems. We do need to do, yes, Vandana.
Now, Andrew, when you talk about these projects and these chapters in India, do we need to lay down some ground rules for them? Because I remember speaking to you about VITs and IITs, everyone follows something different. So probably, can we have some induction for them so that, because they are students, there are ways to bypass easily. So probably we can create some video for them so that these are the ground rules. These are some of the misconducts that we have seen in the past.
Yep.
Which can help them go through it. And if there's one guideline for one chapter, it should be the same for other, or there'll be some other people who will keep questioning.
Absolutely. No, that's actually a really good idea. We should probably do it for student chapters and city chapters. Once we've actually defined regional chapters, we should definitely do it that way. Martin.
Sorry, Martin, can I jump in for a second on that point? Because I know that the chapters committee has produced some of that in the past, not specifically for student chapters, but in general for new chapter leaders. So it might be a good idea to have them expand that and also do specifically for student chapters and etc.
Yep, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so one is that you say regional chapter and city chapters. I don't like the simplifications, but that's me. So it's really chapters or not chapters, the same rules. Anyhow, the student chapters, they had some very clear distinction between the regular chapters because they are different and tied to university or educational institution. So there has been very clear rules for that. So I wonder if it's not there anymore.
No, the rules are very clear. They're just not following them. So we do need some sort of induction process, maybe a better sign-up process that actually makes it really clear.
They are tied to a professor, right? So that's something we said very clearly back then. So just to create one means that you have a professor that actually an educational institution that forwards this. That's very important.
It's certainly something that we should probably consider, Avi, when we're doing the review on the chapter policy tomorrow. Do we make the faculty member more than just a co-lead? I think that's a good question.
No, you should. Yeah, that way.
Anyway, yeah, it's just simply because we've got plenty of student chapters around the world. We just seem to be having more than our fair share of problems in India with IITs. And it's not the students necessarily, it's maybe the IIT, like VIT has policies that are incompatible with our own. Okay, grants.
Yeah, I agree. So
go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Andrew.
Okay. Accenture and Google. Obviously, this is the one I was talking to you about before. We are essentially, I'm about to sign this. It is right on the limit of my acceptance, and we will be invoicing them per the agreement. I think we've got a really good way forward with Google, and I hope to see this get going very shortly. Events, we've had really good, yes.
Again, sorry, Andrew, but I think those contracts where possible should be also more transparent and available publicly, isn't it? Or do we keep them separate?
I can share the Google one with you at the moment, but there are conditions in the contract that say we shouldn't be publicly discussing it until after we've signed. But
so who's reviewing this? So I would say that there must be more than only a staff member reviewing those. I think it should be a consortium, or how call it, not the board, but a board of reviewers. Because we don't want to have this.
I'll shoot it through to the internal board. I haven't signed it yet. It's ready for signatures. So I'd like to get that done this week if possible. So I will shoot that through after the meeting.
I thought that you said it's cool. Yeah, it's already ongoing. But,
no, it's not going yet. It is literally waiting for my acceptance of the Google's lawyers changes, and then I'll sign it. But essentially, I'm happy to delay it and let them know that it'll be a couple of days whilst you review.
Yeah, so I think something like that should be not by default us as board, but more than only you, just for transparency and shared actions. I would like that.
Okay.
I don't know how the others feel about that, but let me know.
It's fine. At the end of the day, we don't have a heap of these. The main thing from my perspective is to make sure that if we're getting other people's paper, if we need legal advice on the actual contract, it's got to be a substantial sum that we're getting for the grant, because then all of the foundation's cut of it, which currently is 10% or $1,000, our costs will exceed.
I don't mean the legal thing. I mean, just to be transparent on how it's done, because now it's new, and it's not that I don't trust you. It's just that it's more than one. It's one next thing you have to do next to all the obligations you already have. So as we do many as a community, to have something that is not public, it's kind of awkward with OWASP. Of course, we have always a privacy, for example, for our employees about employee things, but the others than that, we should be most transparent as possible. So having signing contracts, if people give money to something developed, still being not public available, I think that's kind of awkward with OWASP guidance and standards. I don't know if I'm the only one. I don't want to be more Catholic than the Pope, but I think to have vision stills OWASP, we get money for doing for work that has not been shared and it's hidden. I think that's awkward for OWASP. But it's me, so I'd like to hear other people's opinion about this too.
So this is part of the grants and fundraising stuff that we do need to actually get some transparency here. We're looking at some software that might help, but we need to have significant numbers of grants to really, make it worthwhile. Secondly, at the end of the day, basically, many of these things come in and we're not supposed to talk about them publicly until such time as we've either agreed or whatnot. So it'll have to be some sort of private thing. I do want transparency. I think that's one of our core values. How we achieve it, I think at the end of the day, the board, there are contracts and contracts. What we do need to do is just simply make sure that once we enter into something and we actually do know that it's going to be delivered, we do need to be able to track those deliverables and any special things. That's one of the things that we've not had in place before. So Harold is currently working on a process for that, and we will publish it soon. But grants could be for events, they could be for chapters, they could be for diversity, it could be for outreach. So it's not just going to be Harold. We need to make sure everyone's got a clear process and some clear deliverables.
We have Avi's hand raised up.
First of all, I completely agree with Martin about transparency, especially in this case. I'm the one that you shouldn't be trusting, Martin, for reasons. But I'm just curious, we don't actually have a grants policy in place yet?
We do.
Right.
The problem is that we don't have any processes around it. And so although we've got legal forms and whatnot, the projects have been bringing us things, funding that they want to do, but they come with not our legal paperwork.
So, well, I mean, there's a difference between funding and sponsorship, as we've always had, versus a grant which has strings attached with deliverables and whatnot. Is that not a difference from the perspective of policies and whatnot?
What we do need to do is we need to be very clear about fundraising, which, sustenance grants and funding for purposes, and also it's grant making. So we're doing both types. And at the moment, what we're trying to do is sort out the grant making part of it. There is no income associated with it right now. We do encourage people to bring income. And unfortunately, so far, it's been unique in every time and difficult, say, for example, with the Accenture one. There was another hand up.
Yeah, it was me. And I also wanted to say that I agree with Martin to have indeed transparency. Especially if we have grants that has strings attached to it, right? I think we as a board should, be able to review it and, validate those strings and to see if we can, accept that yes or no.
There should be like expenses. There should be probably some limits there. Otherwise, you're going to be bombarded with little ones all the time as we start to get things going.
No, exactly. But, well, I think we know what we're saying, right? So I think indeed it should be transparent and open, that we at least have can have a look, and indeed if there's indeed strings attached to it because of their proposal in the grant, yeah, pushes us in a certain direction, we should be able to have a discussion together as a board on it, and not that it yeah, I don't know, silently got accepted or passed through with our knowledge.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say I'm also in favor of that transparency.
Okay. Definitely then we'll have to work on this as part of the process and just simply make sure that we've got something to manage all of the different requirements. The way that I look at some of these things is if we're going to do it at once, we've got to be able to do it 1,000 times. And at the moment we're doing one-offs time and time again, and we just can't keep on doing it. Martin.
Yeah, I think when it's thousands of times, that's something that we have to consider when the load is like this. That's what I said. I don't know if it has to be this board, but it should be a review board. And we should have indeed clear rules about what can be done, what is a grant, what is an assignment, what is a contract. So I think that's what we need, and then we need a review. And most of the emphasis put an emphasis on, it must be transparent. We don't want to compete with contracting. It's not a grant. So when I have a service that I want to deliver, or it's not a contracting company, right? Something like that. The very clear, easy, high-level rules you can define, and we need a review board. And it don't have to be the where it looks in grant and say, okay, this is within the line. I mean, there's a question mark because 90% will be a line of everything that's good or very easy to discuss. And there, where there's a question mark, then they should be raised and then looked at that with more details. It's also very easy in the process. Come on, guys.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it lightweight, but it sounds like there's a desire for more. So I'll definitely incorporate your feedback. Okay, events. Basically, everything's going reasonably well. I think that would be a fair statement, Kelly.
Yeah, reasonably well. We do. AppSec EU is low on ticket sales, and the APAC event is low on call for papers and call for trainers, considering the deadline for that to close is supposed to be May 1st. So we may be looking at extending that date for APAC. EU, we know usually it's within the last 2 weeks that we get an increase in registrations, usually the last 2 weeks right before the conference. But right now, AppSec EU, I think it's 100 and, what do we have here? I think paid tickets is 28.
Okay.
Which is more than what we budgeted for the early birds. But it's obviously a lot less than what we budgeted for the regular conference registration ticket prices. So any board members on here, please help spread the word, or anybody on the call actually. AppSec EU registration, and then the APAC call for papers, call for trainers. What else?
Kelly?
Yes.
Can you please actually send out an email to us with the promotional drafts as well as the content that we can share out on our social media, so that people can actually come and register? We can start promoting from today itself, and we can like make it a recurring tweet that after 2 days it can keep retweeting.
Oh, okay, that would be great. We're planning, we have 2 social media days planned for AppSec EU. One is May 4th and the other one is May 26th. We just received the graphics from Hugo yesterday for those, so that those will be going out and shared with the community. Obviously, promote it as many times as you want, but our social media days we're going to focus on May 4th and the 26th.
Mm-hmm. Cool. The only unknown at this moment, we recently signed the LASCON agreement with Norris, and it is going to be, it's profitable, but encourage folks to promote it. The other one that's interesting is AppSec Cali. We haven't been approached yet with a, Haral said yes, that they're interested, but we really need to set aside budget for it. And the longer that this goes, the less money that we'll have set aside for apps at Cali, and it's going to be really important that we nail down a cheaper location to make sure that that's actually possible, but also identify the location soon if they're going to go ahead. Martin.
Sorry today, but Kelly, for the OPSEC Asia, do we have a review board, or the local team does that?
The team that we used that you were involved with for the EU event, they signed on for the entire year, given that they have got availability. So they weren't really locked in, but they did agree to all 3 global AppSec events. So that way we weren't recreating the wheel for every event. Of course, we'll have the local team. I know, Rio, we're going to need help reviewing the submissions in Japanese. So the local team will be there to help, but we've got, our core established team, our core team already established.
It's just that I realized that I gave one answer on Slack. Sorry.
I know, I've seen that. That's okay. I replied back to him. That's fine.
I will correct myself. Okay, thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just so you guys know too, I know Andrew just talked about LastCon and AppSec Cali. Haral was going to go and check with the other local planners to see. And I also reached out to the Boston guys about the Basque event. Jim's no longer heading that. He's not really that involved anymore with the chapters after some family problems he had. So the other local chapter leaders there are discussing it. And I don't know, just real quick, they're looking for space. I went through all of our corporate members that were located in Boston. Tom, I hope you don't, I probably should have asked you first, but I did suggest that virtual's up there. So I don't know if you guys have space to hold the 1-day event, but I gave them a lot of options and asked them if they wanted me to reach out and make the introduction and ask if the corporate members would be willing to host the event. And I have not heard back from them yet. But this was just, I don't know.
Can I say something, Kelly?
Yeah.
Sneak has an office in Boston. If you can send me an email, I can talk to Sneak team who is sitting in Boston, because my boss sits in Boston. She can help us out.
I believe that they were on that list that I gave them as well. Like, I think there was Veracode, Security Innovation was up there. Okay, so SNCC, so sure.
Yeah, you just send me an email, and if the space is available, how much space you need. If you can send me the specifications, I can tell my boss and the head of the Boston team, so that it goes directly there. If it's a no, it's a no. If it's a yes, then we can go ahead.
Yeah, it's usually, they only usually hold it 1 day, and it's usually on a Saturday. And it was always at the Microsoft building. So, and I did ask what happened with that space, and that was all in the same email, and I haven't heard back yet. So,
I can give you a little bit of an update. So thanks for the heads up, Kelly. So it depends on how many people we have. I mean, we can't house more than 25 or 30.
Okay. So that
conference rooms that we have, but I will tell you, I have a couple of other clients that have Microsoft as their members, and Microsoft's offices are starting to open up, I was told.
So they're not even open yet. So I guess that explains why.
Yeah, they're starting to, because I have a couple of other, tech clients that do the same thing you guys do. We'll use their offices. And what I heard was, it depends. So it depends on whether the Microsoft Boston office has opened up yet.
Wow. Yeah, I'm assuming
when are you planning on it? When's the event?
They usually don't hold it until October.
Oh, I would suspect Microsoft will be open by then.
Yeah, I guess maybe Microsoft just doesn't want to commit to anything because it's just unsure.
Yeah, probably. How many people are you expecting?
I asked them to give me all of the specs, like, how many trade, like, I think I was at that event. No, I wasn't. I was never at the Basque event. We went up for the training. So I don't know how many rooms they need, how many, people they usually, because it's a free event. So I'm not sure how many people they usually get.
Right. Because I remember, didn't we do that? Was it the training that was at Boston University a few years ago?
That was training.
Yeah.
That was separate from the Basque event. Yeah. So, but I'll definitely reach out, Vandana, to them and get some more information, because like I said, I haven't heard back from them with the specs and rooms, number of attendees, all of that stuff. So that would be great if they had room in their offices in Boston for that.
Yeah, Kelly, feel free to put me on there, because I can ask the events team if there's options around. Now, if I remember correctly, isn't Rapid 7 still a a corporate sponsor or member?
Let me see who,
Because I know they just hung a Rapid 7 sign on one of the large buildings near the Boston Garden. I don't know what size space they have, but
They have a huge office. I actually was there. It's
Oh, okay.
beautiful. They moved into a new facility, but it was a couple of years ago.
mhm.
yeah, I just noticed that they hung the sign, Bill.
Oh, that sign's new. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
just so you guys know, I mean, what else do we have? A Micro Focus is up there. Now I put, they're in Southborough. Like, I don't know how geographic.
Yeah, Southborough is probably 35 miles from downtown Boston or more.
Okay.
I mean, it's
Secure,
not a huge ride, but it'll take somebody half an hour, 40 minutes at least.
right. Secure Code, Warrior, and Zero North are both in Boston. So those two, I would think that would be good two choices. Security Innovations in Wilmington.
That's not bad. That's
And
like
then-
15 miles outside of Boston.
Okay, and
And
then,
there, they got huge offices. I think it's San Mateo, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm confused. There's a big office in Boston also, other side of the country.
Grant?
and then Veracode, they're in Burlington.
Yeah, that's not bad either. That's 15, 18 miles.
Okay. Yeah, so
Grant?
and then possibly Rapid 7. Okay.
Yep. Grant?
My question, I wanted to let them finish. My question was just around Benelux days. Fairly confident that I missed Benelux days because I was in South Africa. Martin? So I'm guessing it's more than on track. It's done.
Yes, it has happened 30th of March and 1st of April, but it's not a joke.
So
But you
we'll
guys
hopefully
are
have some numbers
looking-
there.
Martin, you guys are looking to hold another one later this year.
Yes, so the upset, actually this one, we had the 21 taking place in 22. And end of the year, by November 24th and 25th, there will be the 22 edition in the Netherlands. So that's confusing. So last year's edition, we had to postpone for COVID. So that has been done in April. This year's edition will be in November 22. So there has been one in April, and there will be one in November.
Right.
Okay, so there should be two lines in here, one with an April 2022 date and one with a November 2022 date.
Yes.
But I'm curious to know how well the April one did, given that it was held April 1st. And
we had good registrations. We had a number of registration numbers were higher than expected. Normally, when we do the Benelux Day, we get easily 150 to 200 very early. Now it was the first time after COVID, so the registration in last year, the original date, they were carefully, but still we had 120 for March and April 1st. We had at the end a bit more than 100 registrations, but we had less than 50, about 50% show up. So that's very low. Normally you have like 50% no show for a free event. Now we had close to 50% no show. Yeah, I counted in the max, but I don't know. So when I looked at how many people have been in the audience, it was like what, around 50. If they have been the same people the whole day, I don't know.
Yep.
But,
so there's more detail in the slides, which are linked from the actual deck. Sorry, from the agenda. We are nearly upon time. Vandana, could you run the last item, which is, I think honestly, it's more of a discussion than a vote. I think the actual thing has already happened. We just need to make sure that the gentleman is fully confirmed and the board agrees.
Right. Sure. Thank you so much, Andrew. Can you please share your screen?
Yep.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Let me just get the OWASP. Oh, goodness gracious.
So while you're opening it up, Andrew, so hope all of you at the board have received the email wherein Fiona has confirmed that she's fine to have Lewis as one of the board members. So the discussion is mainly about that. And we also want to make sure that when we talk about Lewis, we see very few members who are nominating to be the compliance committee members. And he's one of those who has agreed to be part of the compliance committee and he wants to contribute to it. I remember there were certain discussions which were happening on the email list. I would like to have the discussion here itself because it's been quite some time where this is happening. So if you have any doubts, any questions, can we just open it up right now and discuss whether we want to choose Lewis as part of the committee member or not? Or let's say if you want to have some recommendations for it. So the stage is open now.
All right. If
anyone has any questions?
I just want to point out if I'm assuming that most of the board members don't know him. I actually had a short chat with him a little bit before the election. A fantastic guy. I would have been happy for him to be on the board as well. Very policy oriented. Very. It's just a natural fit for the compliance committee.
Even I had a brief conversation with him and this conversation went really well because in the beginning I was also apprehensive because we've never met him, we've never seen his work, we've never seen anything except the video that he submitted for OWASP board, but could be a good candidate to put forward. And if somebody is committed to move forward, I think we can give him a chance. My 2 cents on it. Anyone, any questions?
I don't know whether a board vote is actually required for this. I think this is part of the discussion we needed to have, Andrew, was whether for the compliance committee, a board vote was necessary. The current reading of the bylaws makes it seem as if the committee just needs to approve the new member.
It is a bit ambiguous.
It is. And the committee's policy itself, let me just go to OWASP. Martin, while I find the committee's policy, can Martin?
Yeah, so there's a thing with committees and committee. That's always the problem with the compliance committee. In the past, we had kind of a special committee because there's a difference because the compliance, the trust, and even so we had normally had a forwarded or invited committee member rather than having that for a committee where people can participate in just I think Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. So the label of trust and faith in the workload of a compliance committee is different than a regular committee when you can do it whenever you have time. By compliance committee, you have to be there when there is a compliance issue. That said, I think when 2 people think that it's trustable and a member of good stand, then I would think we don't need a board thing. But I thought that we generally agreed that we would have. I can't recall some people to talk with him, or there would be a executive meeting with the person. I'm not recalling what we agreed to. But I think when we have a faith in him, the problem is just have trust and let him try. It's kind of awkward, but definitely with Fiona forwarding this person, then he has my trust.
So maybe just so that we are, whether the board requires a vote or not, possibly we should take a vote now, so that it's either official because the board voted for it, or it's official because the compliance committee have accepted him as a member. So maybe just run this as a vote and then we can confirm it.
Yeah, I think that's
I think it's a good one for giving trust and I call it mandate to the person. Yes.
Ratification.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's right. So if everyone is in line with that, let's go ahead and take a vote because now we have a sponsor and a second as well. So, and nobody has any question. We'll go with the names that I see on the list for the voting. Martin?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
I don't see Jubin. I think he had to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a yes from my side.
Avi?
Sorry.
Yes, for me.
Yes, Avi, sorry, Avi.
Yeah.
6 yeses.
So
Excellent.
yes, so it's a yes from everyone except Jubin, who had to leave. Yep. Thank you so much, everyone. So the motion has passed.
Very good.
Andrew, please convey our regards to Louis, and let's welcome Louis to the team.
Excellent. No worries. What I would suggest is to the bylaws subcommittee, we need to clear this up either in the bylaws or review the committee's policy as part of this, because membership rights and privileges need to be documented in the bylaws, but then we need to be very clear about what committees can do. So I think we can clear this up and remove the ambiguity, taking into account Martin's concerns about the compliance committee is not really a committee. And I think that's a fair statement. It's a very difficult one to recruit for. Vandana, would you like to adjourn?
Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Our next general board meeting would be on May 24th at 12 p.m. US Eastern Time. I hope everyone can join us. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we are adjourning. I'm sponsoring the motion. Who is seconding?
I'll second.
Thanks, Grant. So see you all soon in our next meeting. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Recording stop.